Hi, Cole here. Irrespective of your personal politics, I think one thing we can probably all agree on is that election season is packed with data. This makes it an excellent opportunity to teach kids about the power of numbers and graphs. One graph that I followed closely leading up to the election was by Nate Silver that showed polling results for the presidential candidates. We're going to look at the final version posted in the Silver Bulletin on November 5th. And today, I'd like to cover 3 tips that you can use to analyze graphs like this with kids and maybe learn something yourself in the process too. The first step is to identify what kind of graph we're looking at. This is a line graph. Line graphs are great at showing numbers over time. Here we see how the poll numbers for each candidate have changed over time. The colors help us quickly see which line represents which candidate. Blue for Harris, red for Trump, and yellow for Kennedy, who dropped out partway through. Teaching kids to recognize different types of graphs and their use cases is a great way to introduce them to data and build their visual vocabulary. Next, look for questions that the graph can help answer. One example might be who is currently leading in the polls. The title gives us a clue about the graph's focus, who's ahead in the polls. And looking to the right side, we see that Harris had a slight lead over Trump all the way up to the election. Asking questions like these encourages kids to connect data to real life scenarios and develop their critical thinking skills. Finally, let's look at the details of the graph. Notice the faded data points along each candidate's path. These represent individual polls over time, while the bold line shows an aggregate. Events like debates and announcements are marked on the timeline, helping us see how certain moments influenced the numbers. This is a great opportunity to talk with kids about how events can impact data. But there's an extra layer to understand here, especially since the final result didn't match the polling lead shown on the graph. Polls are a snapshot, not a guarantee. They capture a moment in time and are influenced by factors like sample size, timing, and who is willing to respond. Introducing kids to the topic of uncertainty helps them understand that while data can help guide us, it doesn't always predict outcomes perfectly. To recap, 3 steps can help build kids' understanding of the visual language of graphs. Identify the graph type, ask a question the graph can answer, and then analyze details, symbols, colors, and trends, all while acknowledging uncertainty. These are the same skills that kids can use to understand data in their own lives. Once you've practiced this with them, encourage them to do something they love. Ask their own curious questions, and then gather the data and draw it in a graph. This idea is at the heart of my new children's book, Daphne Draws Data, where kids can learn to harness the power of graphs to answer questions and make decisions. You can learn more and find resources for parents and educators at daphnedrawsdata.com.